And welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here after a little week hiatus due to the All-Star break. A perfect opportunity to hit the refresh button as we enter the latter stages of the regular season and push towards the playoffs. Most teams now at this stage have about 20 to 25 games to go, give or take. But with that, there is still a multitude of exciting storylines still to play out across the regular season. And today I'm going to delve into a couple of them. It'll all make sense a little bit later on when I get into it, but stick with me for that. Before we get into things though, guys, a big shout out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover, both those networks continuing to showcase all of my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Very, very appreciative for all their continued hard work and support. It really does mean a lot. Likewise to all you guys continuing to stay up to date with all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok for all the latest news from across the NBA and the NBL as they get set to start their playoffs as well. Really appreciate you guys continuing to tune into all those channels as I had that week break last week, but still trying to keep you guys abreast of what's happening with across the socials. So appreciate you guys checking those out as well. Alrighty, let's get into things. I tell you what, if you guys want to continue to support me, it might enable me to buy a fan for this room. I am sweating like a bag of cats at a Greyhound meeting at the moment. I've started to ramp up the running. If you're a long-time listener of the show, you'll know that I'd say almost an avid runner. Done a couple of marathons, like my long distance running, things like that. Just before starting this one, I went and did my first interval session. And down here in Hobart at the moment, it's 28 degrees today. So coming straight from the track into this one, I'm still sweating profusely. So we'll see how we go, and hopefully dehydration doesn't kick in and I pass out halfway through this one. Nevertheless, we will push on into some odds and ends, recapping some of the notable news that's occurred throughout the week. Bloody hell. This is crazy. You can probably see, if you're tuning in on YouTube, you can probably see the beads of sweat on my forehead at the moment. That is living. Firstly, Victor Wembanyama. He is set to miss the remainder of the season with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. Now, this will mean he's ineligible for the end of season awards, meaning he's going to miss out on DPOY after failing to meet that 65-game minimum requirement. It's a huge loss for him. He had well and truly locked up DPOY, averaging a steal and 3.8 blocks per game, chipping in as well 24 points, 11 rebounds, and nearly 4 assists per game as well. But this is disappointing for him, and it's disappointing for the Spurs as well. They're right in the kind of push for playing ball, and with their franchise player going down, it's going to mean there's a hell of a lot of expectations and weight on the shoulders of De'Aaron Fox, Chris Paul, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Stephen Castle. All these guys are going to have to well and truly step up in Wemby's absence. I don't know, they're teetering on the edge at the moment. Do they push to a playing spot? It's going to be, they're going to have their work cut out for them. The West is probably, 11, 12 deep at the moment, and they're kind of at the moment on the outside looking in. So we'll see how they go across the next 20 to 25 games. At the time of recording, at the moment, they're actually 13th. The Blazers have jumped them. So they're 4.5 games back of the Kings in 10th. With Wemby going down, I don't know. I think they're going to struggle to make it. Had he still been in the fold, I would have given them a punter's chance. But a big loss for the Spurs, and disappointing to see Wemby go down as well there. Speaking of absentees for the Spurs, Greg Popovich is not expected to return to the team this season. His future with the team remains uncertain as he recovers from a mild stroke he suffered there in November. Now, 76 years of age, you might think his time might just be, it might be curtains for him. Mitch Johnson, he's currently serving as the acting coach there in San Antonio. He joined the Spurs as an assistant there in 2019 after winning a G League championship in 2018 while working as an assistant there with the Austin Spurs. 38 years of age. maybe they start leaning into what the future might look like. Granted, if Pop wants to come back, you're absolutely going to let him. But as I said, at 76 years of age, health concerns, it might almost have forced the hand of the Spurs here. And Mitch Johnson is certainly the guy that I would say will maintain that head coach position. But again, wish him a speedy recovery. Hopefully he returns. It would be great to have one more postseason appearance for Pop there. But we'll see how that plays out in the off-season. In other news, the NBA has suspended Bobby Portis for 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug policy. Now, he mistakenly took an incorrect pain medication that's resulted in this suspension. Now, this is going to have a big impact on the Bucks for the next month or two. It'll pretty much take them to the close of the regular season. Portis has been phenomenal, averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists on the season thus far. And for the Bucks, it's like their big man stocks aren't great. It's going to need a mountain of work from Brook Lopez, and the recently acquired Jericho Sims should also see some pretty substantial game time. It's disappointing. The great thing about it is, I guess, that he is going to be back in time for the playoffs. But with where the Bucks are currently poised there at the moment, they sit at the time of recording in 5th. They're going to have their work cut out for them to kind of clinch home court advantage. But absolutely a big loss there with Portis on the sidelines. A hugely exciting piece of news came out during the week. Tasmania now officially has its first ever NBA representative, with the Golden State Warriors signing Taron Armstrong to a 2-way contract. Now, for those not familiar, Armstrong is a 6'6" point guard who's been plying his trade with the Cairns Taipans here in the NBL, averaged 17 points, 4.6 rebounds, 4.7 assists, and 1 steal per game, whilst going at 35% from 3. Has really been one of the standout young players across the league and absolutely deserves an opportunity to showcase his skills on the biggest stage of them all. It is just a phenomenal opportunity for him to get to rub shoulders with the best in the business, Draymond Green, Steph Curry. The learnings and skills he's going to acquire from just being in that environment are second to none. Really, really hope that he gets the opportunity and look forward to hopefully seeing him flourish within the NBA. Regardless, though, as a fellow Tasmanian, it is incredibly exciting. It was phenomenal just seeing him come into the NBL in his second year this year. Really, his game grew by leaps and bounds. I think it's as phenomenal for him, as phenomenal for basketball here in Tasmania. It's phenomenal for basketball in Australia. And hopefully it'll be phenomenal as well for the Golden State Warriors, picking up a very, very tidy player. So all the best there to Taron. Hopefully we get to see him suit up for the Warriors, but nevertheless, very well deserved. And certainly look forward to seeing how he goes in the States there. And just finally from odds and ends, the 76ers are in serious strife at the moment. Now, I'll touch on them a little bit later in the show. But the 76ers and Embiid are currently consulting doctors and considering alternative options to his injured knee at the moment. Now, from reports, sides had hoped for progress in Embiid's body, but his efforts to play and current treatment, including the injections in that knee, have not provided any improvement thus far. Now, for the 76ers, they're continuing to fall further and further off the pace for a playing spot. As I said, I'll get into that a little bit more shortly. But I think personally, it's almost time to move on from Embiid. There's absolutely still going to be a market for him. I can't imagine he's going to go for a premium package as to what he would a year or two ago. But at the moment, you just need someone who's going to be on the court regularly to complement Maxey in his growth and development. And at the moment, Embiid's not that guy. So really, really disappointing stuff there. They've got 20 to 25 games to get things to click. But if you're a Philly fan, the last few years have just been nothing but a huge disappointment. I certainly empathize with any fans out there. They say the night is darkest just before the dawn. But unfortunately, the dawn doesn't look in sight for Philly fans. So we'll watch this space. We'll await with a bated breath as to whether Embiid will return and help guide this team to a playing appearance. But at the moment, it's very bleak, especially given that these other alternatives aren't providing too fruitful at the moment. Nevertheless, guys, let's push ahead.
The Daily Dribble.
Excellent. As I said at the top of the show, this is essentially, I've got 4 storylines here. These are the best storylines, I think personally, to keep an eye on in the regular season as we enter the latter stages. Now, a lot of you guys might agree with me. A lot of you might disagree. I would love to hear all your thoughts and opinions. Hit me up on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok to share your thoughts and provide some of the storylines that you're looking forward to seeing play out over the course of the rest of the regular season. I've got 4 here, so I'm going to rip into it. First and foremost, with the MVP race. Now, at the moment, it is absolutely no questions asked. It is down to a battle between 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the 3-time winner already, Nikola Jokic. As I wrote the notes for the show, at the time, it was the number 1 seed there, OKC, versus the 2 seed, the Denver Nuggets in the West. Incredible battle between the teams and the star players on each franchise there. Jokic is having an incredible season once again, averaging 29 points, 12.6 rebounds, 10.4 assists, 1.8 steals per game, whilst going at 3 turnovers per game as well there. Now, doing it on shooting splits of 57.5% from the field, 44.5% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. Simply incredible. The sick thing is now that people aren't even that overwhelmed by this stat line, given that, he's put up numbers like this, the last couple of years gone by. But these are phenomenal, groundbreaking numbers that you really almost have to look twice at. What he's doing is startling. And had he have not already won 3 MVPs, you would say he probably would have locked it up this season. But as we know in the NBA, with MVP, it's obviously the stats are a huge part, your team's standings are a huge part, but also the storyline and narrative. And unfortunately, I don't want to say the Jokic storyline and narrative have grown stale, but this is something that we've already seen before. Incredible stuff, though, incredible stats, having a hell of a season. The guy that he's going up against, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's going at 32.4 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block per game, doing it on 2.6 turnovers per game. Now, his shooting splits are incredible as well, 52.3% from the field, 36.4% from 3, and 89% from the line. Now, the bookmakers at the moment have SGA as a relatively firm favourite. Certainly helps that OKC have an 8.5 game buffer on the Nuggets in second there at the moment. But if the Nuggets can, get this back a little bit closer, it seems very, very unlikely that they mow down OKC. But if they get it back to 3, 4, 5 games at max, maybe the odds will start to lean towards Jokic. Either way, whichever one of them wins it is certainly a deserving winner. Potentially Jokic to clinch a 4th and cement his spot as one of the all-time greats within the history of the league. And SGA hunting his first. And potentially first championship might coincide with that as well. But that is certainly one storyline that I'm looking forward to seeing play out, the battle for the MVP. The second storyline that I will be taking note of is, can the Phoenix Suns correct their course? Now, it's been such a funny year for the Suns. They should be so much better than what they are. At the moment, they sit 11th with a 27-31 record, 2.5 games back of the Kings there in 10th. It's they should be at the minimum a playing team. really with the talent at their disposal, they should be hunting a guaranteed playoff spot. It's, not likely. It's certainly not outside the realms of possibility. They're 4.5 games back at the Clippers in 6th. But with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and a really solid batch of rotation players, they should be so much better than what they are. Can they correct it in the next 20 to 25 games? I think there's potential there. I think Bradley Beal's looked rejuvenated after his bench stint. He's back into the starting 5, playing some really high-quality ball. Just unfortunate that it's not coinciding with wins. The Suns being 2-8 there in their last 10 games across the league. And with that move into the starting point guard role for Beal, Tyus Jones has moved to a bench role. I personally think they're going to fall short of the top 6. But with Dallas's injury woes at the moment, they should be eyeing at the minimum a playing appearance. I'll certainly be watching with eager anticipation, as I said, with the payroll that they have, the players, the star power. This would be a super, super disappointing year not to make the play-in. So I think they will correct things. I think they will clinch a spot, but they've certainly got a lot of work to do across their next 25 games. Another team that's at the moment on the outside looking in, and another storyline that I'll be paying attention to, is can Philly will themselves into a play-in spot? I was going to say playoff, but that's unrealistic. A play-in spot. Now, at the moment, Philly have currently lost 8 games on the bounce. They are 2.5 games back of the Chicago Bulls there in 10th. And with Joel Embiid on the sidelines, things are pretty bleak. Now, unfortunately, even without Embiid, the rest of the team just can't seem to get it together at the moment. They went down to the Bulls on Tuesday by 32 points, which just really summed up their recent month or so. Really disappointing. Just essentially garbage. Hot garbage. Now, even without Embiid, who's kind of being monitored day to day almost, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Quentin Grimes, and the rest of the players on their roster, they should be a lot better than what they are. They should be performing better than what they are. 20-37 on the season, 8 losses on the bounce. That ain't going to cut it. Now, the Bulls are playing some pretty decent ball. Nikola Vucevic and Josh Giddey in particular, since his move there to the Windy City, they're playing some really good ball. But with that talent, with that firepower that Philly possess, they should chase them down. If Embiid can find the court and just suit up, play some minutes, they should get there. I'm really fascinated to see how things go for them. I think personally, there could be some big moves made this offseason in Philly. Regardless of how it plays out, even if they just somehow will themselves into a playing spot, this season has been hugely, hugely disappointing. And to be perfectly fair, it's not just this season. They're probably the last half a decade, 5 years or so, have been incredibly underwhelming. So don't be surprised to see some heads roll if Philly fail to make the play-in. I'm certainly eagerly watching this one too. And finally, to the fourth storyline that I will be paying very close attention to is, are the Detroit Pistons the real deal? Now, the Pistons, they're currently riding a 7-game win streak. Their longest win streak in a decade. Not since the 2014-2015 season had they won 7 on the bounce. At the time of recording, they currently sit 6th at the moment in the Eastern Conference with a record of 32-26. Now, this is prior to their game versus Celtics on Thursday. But that's only 1 game back of the Pacers in 4th and half a game back of the Bucks in 5th. With how balanced their roster is of youth, experience, and the continued improvement of their first-time All-Star Cade Cunningham, they're looking legit. I believe in this team. Cade is the guy, and what an incredible season he's having. Now, just take this in. This is what he's doing this season. He's dropping 26 points per night, 6.3 rebounds, 9.5 assists, and 1 steal per game, throwing nearly a block per game as well, and shooting it at 46% from the field, 36.5% from three, and 85% from the line. Going into the season, I was quite high on the Pistons. I was buying into them. I really liked the youth that they've got coming, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, players like that, but complemented with a bit of experience there. Tim Hardaway, Tobias Harris coming back. I was a believer in this team, and they are proving me right at the moment. If you continue to get this output from your franchise star in Cade Cunningham, like this is the guy who's going to carry your team. I'm very, very excited to see their push to potentially home court. As I said, they're a game back and forth. It is well within the realms of possibility that they clinch home court advantage. And that is something that I'm going to be paying very close attention to for the remainder of the regular season. I think it's fantastic. A small market team that's been out in the wilderness for some time. It's been a pretty extensive period of time since they were really relevant. But they look the business at the moment. And yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing how the rest of their regular season plays out. Guys, there you have it. There are 4 storylines that I will be keeping my eye on across the last 20 to 25 games of the regular season. It's going to be a bumper month or two leading into the playoffs. The anticipation is continuing to build for the playoffs. I am beyond amped. Feeling refreshed after that week off last week, but certainly glad to have ball back in our lives. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to go get a towel and wipe the sweat off my forehead. A little pat on the back to myself. I'm quite proud that I've managed to get through this one in one piece. But as I said before, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on the storylines that you'll be paying attention to. Hit me up on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok to share all your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Till next week, though, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. And as always, remember, be good or be good at it. Take care, guys. I'll speak to you soon.